Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of International Insiders. Today, I'm in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, and we're going to be talking about everything related to moving to Mexico, residence, real estate, all of it. So with me, I have Mauricio Signs. He's a legal expert who's been here for 27 years. So Mauricio, welcome to the episode. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yes, absolutely. I was born and raised in Mexico City, and I got my law degree there, and I moved here in 1997. At the time, it was really a very small town, very small town. And I joined a law firm that had been here for about 4 or 5 years. Eventually, I became partner. Then about 12, 13 years ago, I got my own law firm, private practice. And basically I've been advising on matters of real estate, especially to purchasers and sellers of property here. But we have also advised developers, we have advised people moving in, corporate trademarks, but mostly real estate.
Got it. Okay. So the first question I have, let's say, Cabo San Lucas, it's a beautiful town. I've been coming here for a number of years. It's one of my favorite places to visit. And I think for a lot of people from the US and Canada, they come here and they fall in love with the town, the lifestyle. They see some real estate. They think, wouldn't it be nice to live Cabo San Lucas or anywhere in Mexico? What are the steps for someone to actually live here legally as far as residents go?
Well, it's not complicated. Basically, anybody can enter into Mexico and they can stay up to 6 months straight as a tourist. That means that you are not supposed to be working, you are not supposed to be earning money. As a tourist, you can come to Mexico and travel all around for 6 straight months. If you want to stay longer, then you need to go out, come back the next day, and it's another 6 months. So as a tourist, it's very easy.
Legally, could someone have a property here and just do that every 6 months, go in, out?
Yes, absolutely. To own property in Mexico, you do not need to have any specific immigration permit whatsoever. You can own property in Mexico and be as a tourist. So actually, many of my clients do that. So they start coming in October and they start living in May. So they spend the winter here. Typically, they come back and forth because there is some business they have to take care of over there, and they come back. So that's the general and most basic thing, no? Then, if you want to spend most of the time here, more than 6 months straight, and you are going to retire, then also it's you just need to meet certain criteria. Basically, you have to prove that you don't need to work here, that you are basically retired. So you apply for a residency card, residency permit, and there are 2 kinds of residencies: the temporary and the permanent. The temporary is good for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, and upon expiration they may be renewed. And the permanent residence is when you just get it and then it's good forever, no? Typically, you need to start with a temporary, and after 4 years, a maximum of 4 years, then you can apply for a permanent. I say a maximum because sometimes you apply for a permanent on the 2nd year or that, and it may be obtained. No, it's rather easy. You just need to prove that you have money, so you don't need to work here. How much money? It varies, but about $100,000 a year, if you can receive them, or $50,000 a year. You can prove that you either have them or you are retired, and you show that. Then that will show that you don't need to work here, and you will be given the permit.
So you would just show, for example, your bank statements, and you're saying as long as you have $50,000 coming in per year, you can get that temporary residence.
That is right, because that will show that you don't need to work here. If you want to move and work here, then it's a bit more complicated because you can incorporate a company and work like that, but then it's going to be more like an investor, right? So you can be an entrepreneur and create an entity in Mexico, make some business, but you are going to be considered an investor. So you're coming with your money. You're not going to be an employee, no? That then it's rather easy. The thing is, if you are looking for a job here and get the permit to work here, it's a bit more complicated because then you really need to show to the government why specifically should you be preferred to a Mexican national. No,
It's not easy to come here and get a job.
it's not that easy. If you own property here, then it's even easier to get the residency, you know. And personally, there are not that many benefits to get a residency visa if you're going to be residing here all year. Yes, but I have many clients that, as I mentioned, only come the winter and they still want it. And I said, well, of course, you can get it. It's not complicated, but you may get just a few benefits here and there.
So if someone's got money, they're financially stable, they just want to live here, they don't need to work, then no problem. Just come every 6 months in and out. And
just like that. And if you get for instance, if you are going to buy a Mexican car, for instance, or open a Mexican bank account, you will need to have the residency permit.
Okay, so if I want to drive here, I need the Mexican resident, or can I drive?
If you drive a rental car, you need nothing. But if you want to buy a Mexican car and leave it here on your home so that you have a car when you have it here, well, because it's a Mexican car, the dealership is now recently starting to ask for residency permits. And you need to insure it with a Mexican insurance company. And again, to make sure that you get paid, because you know the insurance company is always checking everything to see if there is the obligation to pay, you need to get that residency. And of course, to drive it, you need to have a Mexican driver's license, which again, you will need a residency. But if you have your car from abroad, or you don't even have a car and you just move by Uber or walking, then it's really not a big need.
So someone could go across the border, buy a car, get it licensed, drive it here to Cabo San Lucas, and they just need to have their insurance back in the US. They can drive around, no problem?
That is right. That is right. If it's a US car, it needs to have US insurance. If it's a Mexican car, it has to have Mexican insurance. That's how it goes.
You said the other benefit was getting a bank account. Now, if I have property here, do I really need to have a bank account in Mexico, or can I get by?
It also depends. Some of my clients hire property managers, so they keep the house in good shape, all through the year. So many times, the property managers will be receiving in their accounts whatever expenses they need to from the owner, and so then the owner doesn't need to have a bank account. But if there is no property manager, it's very advisable that you have a bank account here. It's if you stay really long enough. I mean, when many clients just go for a month and leave or that, well, that's different.
Now, if I do want to get that temporary residence, so you say you need to have at least 50K coming in per year, what's the time frame to get that so I could then get a local bank account?
Well, the first step is the most cumbersome, because you need to get first an appointment in your country of residence in a Mexican consulate there, and they will stamp in your passport a pre-approval authorization. And the very next trip you come to Mexico, you then need to process the obtention of the residency card here in the local immigration office. And it takes about 7-10 days to get the visa. So it's very easy.
Very easy, as long as you have that 50K per year coming in.
Yes.
Okay, and then once you've got that, you walk into a bank and just open an account easily?
Yes. That is right. That is right.
Okay, that's good. Now, I do want to get to the permanent residence, but before we get to that, you said that if someone comes here and they are a bit of an entrepreneur, they can start their own business. What if they did register a company here? Can they then go and get business bank accounts, personal bank accounts, without having the temporary residence?
As a shareholder, you really don't need any visa whatsoever, any permit. You don't even have to be present. You can have a power of attorney and become a shareholder and found a company and that. But if you're going to be actually managing on a daily basis the transactions here, then it's important that you get that residency card, which will allow you also to represent the company.
Got it. Okay, so you got your temporary residence. Now let's say I want to become a permanent resident. How does that become permanent residence?
Automatically, after your 4th year, you can qualify for your permanent residency. If you want to do it earlier, then you need to show basically that you have property here and that you have more money in your accounts. They will say, well, then we don't mind, we'll give you the permanent residence right away.
Yeah. Okay, so you'd get the stamp in your passport, and then you can live here. You don't have to do any more border runs.
No, that is right. At least here until the day you die.
What are the advantages of getting that? You know, the bank account, of course, but what else do I get?
I would say that, again, there are not that many. You can qualify to certain discounts. Like, for instance, if you're a senior, you can get certain discounts in property tax and that. But you need to have a property and you need to be over 65. No?
On the subject of getting permanent residence, what's the next step if I want to become a citizen of Mexico and get a passport? How hard is that?
And that is a bit more complicated. And the bottom line is that I don't think it's really needed, because the difference that you would get if you get a Mexican citizenship is basically that you have the right to vote and to be voted for a political post, which most of the times I would say 99% of the people are not interested in doing that. So, but if you wanted to become a citizen, then you need to learn history, you need to learn Spanish, and I would say that typically it takes about a year of process to become a citizen, and it's not very complicated either, but it's you will need to pass certain tests for that.
Including speaking Spanish?
Yes, including speaking Spanish.
Okay, so you'd be a permanent resident. Is there a number of years that you need to be a permanent resident before you can
Depends
apply?
on the situation. For instance, if you marry a Mexican lady, if you have Mexican children, then I believe it's in certain cases even automatic if you do that. But if you are just here and as a tourist and eventually you're going to become a citizen, typically it's after the 4th year of temporary residence when you become a permanent resident. At that time you could also apply for the citizenship. But that's something different. That citizenship has to be really requested in Mexico City, and it's a different thing.
Okay. The Mexican passport, I think it's a very good passport though, right? Gives you a lot of visa, free travel.
In general, it's a good passport. I know that it's below, for instance, European and US and Canada countries, because we need to get a visa to go into the US, for instance, as opposed as in Europe, they really don't need that, no? So But in general, it's a very good passport, I guess.
Okay, all right. Let's switch to property. So a lot of people come here, the real estate is incredible. Just been looking around and it's truly incredible. So someone finds a house and they think, all right, I want to live on the beach. What are the steps to actually buying the property? How does it work?
Foreigners cannot own fee simple title along the coast and along the borders. No, it's a prohibition. On the mainland, yes.
Sorry, can you tell me what is a fee simple title? What does that mean?
Fee simple title is a normal way that people own property in which the land is yours and nobody can take it away from you. And you are not paying a rent, you are not living on a concession, you are not based on, I don't know, consideration of where you were born, etc. It belongs to you. No, it's not part of a human community whatsoever. Fee simple title is, who owns this? John Smith. Good. So foreigners then need to create a Mexican trust where a Mexican bank is the owner of record, but the Mexican bank doesn't hold it as an asset of the bank on their own name, but it's for the benefit of the real owner. So let's say that John Smith wants to buy a property here. Then what happens is that the seller is going to sell it to a bank, which is handled and managed by a Mexican bank. So the real owner is a Mexican company, a Mexican bank, but the bank will follow at all times the instructions of the beneficiary of the trust. And the beneficiary will be John Smith and their family.
That foreigner who's the beneficiary, do they need to have an account at that bank or no?
Not at all. No, not at all.
Okay.
No, basically, the only thing that is required is that the trust agreement is signed by the seller of the property, by the trustee bank, and by the beneficiary. And it's a procedure exactly as any other transfer of property. So the beneficiary uses the house and takes care of it, is fully responsible for it. The bank will not pay for anything. So all the repairs, all the insurances, everything has to be handled by the beneficiary because it's their home. And the only difference is that when that beneficiary would like to sell, they need to have the trustee bank sign the transfer deed as well. So everything goes like that. So many times there has been a property, for instance, that has been sold 10 times, and the 10 times have gone through a trust to another trust, to another trust, to another trust. And it's like that because it's a house that may be basically owned by foreigners for so many times.
So just so I'm understanding this, you're saying if you want to buy a property within 100 kilometers of the coastline around the entire country of Mexico, okay, you can't technically own it directly. You need to have a Mexican bank. The bank is the trustee. Bank is the trustee. You as the foreigner are the beneficiary. What's the name for this trust? What do they call it?
In Spanish, it's called fideicomiso. So it's a word that sounds difficult, but every foreigner learns eventually how to spell it. And it's the translation of a trust agreement. So it's exactly like that.
So if I'm a foreigner, I'm just hearing this for the first time, I might wonder, was this safe? Do I really have ownership? Will they change the rules in the future? What would you say to that person?
I would say that it's super safe, super safe. Every property that is owned in Cabo San Lucas, but for that matters, in Cancun, in Tijuana, in Ensenada, in Puerto Vallarta, in Acapulco, owned by foreigners, is owned through a fideicomiso. So it's very, very extended. and it's very safe. All Mexican banks are very serious and very regulated, so it's super safe.
This is all local Mexican banks can do this, not just a few?
Every local, well, I mean, as long as they offer the service, it's not mandatory for the bank. But yeah, no, as long as they are, they can very well do it.
Mm-hmm. Some countries that I've been to, if you want to live right on the beach, you've got to buy concession land. If I want to live right on the beachfront, you're saying I can do this and I will own that piece of land on the beach, or is the beach still public?
Well, from where the highest tide comes, from there, it's 20 meters inland. It's called the federal zone. That is owned by the country. So from the highest tide you can get. And from those 20 meters now inland, that may be private property. I mean, not necessarily everywhere is like that, no, because there may be other kind of properties, but that's the minimum. So here in Cabo, for instance, when you have a beachfront property, your property will get up to 20 meters towards the highest tide.
But okay, but then you can own that forever. Not the beach, but your
the trusts are good for 50 years.
Okay.
But at the expiration, they may be automatically renewed as long as you request for that. You pay a very simple fee, I would say $1,000 or something, and it's going to be good for another 50 years. And the trustee bank will charge you around $500, $600 a year to hold title in your name. But that's the only time you're going to learn about the trustee bank. They don't get involved in the daily handling of the property, whatsoever. You everything. It's like your own. You pay your taxes, you hire people, you do everything.
Okay, so my cost about $500, $600 per year for this trustee bank for that service.
That's right.
And then what are my property taxes here? If I own a house on the beach, what would I expect to pay?
It varies on the price of the house, but I would say that a property that is worth, for instance, $500,000 should have a property tax of around $2,000 a year.
Okay, so it's a percentage of the value of the place?
More or less. It is not exactly like that because there are a few factors, but in general, I would say that.
Got it. Now, here's a question. So let's say that someone comes to a town like this, Cabo, they find a business they wanted to buy that has a physical premise, like a hotel or a restaurant. What is the process involved to actually buy it? And I'm talking about the transaction costs. So for the real estate agent or the attorney, and then also just getting things inspected. Should they get an engineer to inspect? Can you walk us through that process?
Yes, if you are buying a property here, a home that you want to buy or something, I recommend you hire first of all a realtor because it's key. And the realtor is going to charge the seller a commission, so it's really not going to be payable by you. So hire a realtor. Then the closing costs of a property will be up to $1 million. The value of the property, we can be talking about a 6% roughly of closing costs. And from 1 million up, it may descend to 4%. And I would say that after 5 million, it will descend to 3 or even 2%. The reason for this is that the main item of a closing cost is that it's a tax that is called acquisition of property tax, and it's equivalent to 2% of the value of the property. So if you're going to buy a $1 million home, you're going to pay $20,000 on that tax.
There's no way around that. Like if you're a resident or anything like that, everyone pays that.
Everybody that buys a property pays that. Even if the land is given to you as a gift, you have to pay that.
Even if, let's say that a company owns a house and you buy the shares in the company, it doesn't matter. You're still paying the 2%?
In theory, yes. In practice, it's not that easy because you don't need to report really the transfer of the stock. But the law says that.
Okay, you buy the property, so you're going to pay 2%. You said the real estate commission has nothing to do with your percentage. That's out of the seller's end.
That is right. And the closing costs include the permit to incorporate the trust, which is about $1,500. We have to get certificates of no lien, certificates of non-indebtedness. We need to conduct appraisals to value the property because, of course, to avoid the transfer of property in $1 when the property is worth $1 million, we have to conduct an appraisal, and the 2% tax is going to be paid on the higher of the value in the appraisal or in the actual transfer price.
Now, with that appraisal, is that like an independent appraiser that you have to use? So
yes, we have to get an appraisal ourselves, and the appraiser has to be authorized by the city. So every year they give the authorization, so I cannot just make an appraisal of my own way. The appraisal needs to be done by somebody authorized by the city to make those kind of appraisals.
So there's no, getting a lower value, appraisal value to pay less 2%. No.
And also, it's not worth to record a smaller price because eventually if you sell, you're going to deduct your recorded cost price.
Okay.
So if you purchase a property that is worth $1 million and you want to save some taxes and you record it in $500,000, the seller will be paying taxes on $500,000. So it's good for the seller. You paid less on acquisition of property tax, but when you want to sell, you can only deduct as basis $500,000 when you actually paid $1 million. So you are losing a lot of cost for the capital gain tax.
What is the capital gain tax here?
It's 35% on the taxable profit. So it is always larger than the acquisition of property tax. So you want to pay the 2% acquisition tax, but get full basis for when you sell.
Now that's 35% capital gains tax. Does that expire after, if you hold the property for say 5 years or 10 years, do you still pay that full 35%?
Yes, absolutely. No matter what. The law mandates that you have to pay 35% of the taxable profit, and whatever your cost was, it will be updated with inflation, with a few formulas and that, and you will be able to deduct also the capital improvements you make to the property and that. And if you sell and you pay a realtor commission, you will also be able to deduct that. But at the end, if you get that taxable profit, that's taxed 35%.
Okay, so there's really no reason to even want to understate the value. You want it just to be the real value.
No, on the contrary. Yes. No, on the contrary.
Got it. So you're going to pay 2%. What other fees would you pay? For example, if you want to get a lawyer such as yourself, a real estate attorney, what's the typical fee on a...
I would say that the typical fee, depending of course on the value of the property or the complexity of the transaction, but it will go from $3,000 to $10,000, something like that. It's what an attorney, a real estate attorney, charges on a regular basis to do the actual closing. You also have to pay a notary fee because in Mexico all transactions of real estate need to be notarized. The notary is more complex than the typical notary in the US because in addition to certifying the authenticity of the signatures of the document, they are responsible for the collection and payment of taxes when foreigners are involved. So, for instance, the government says, if there is a transaction between foreigners and the transaction happens and 1 year later I audit the transaction and I see that there were taxes missing, instead of going elsewhere all around the world to look for the owners or the sellers, they go with the Mexican notary and say you're responsible for that. No, so the notary has that tax liability. So you can expect also a similar fee as the attorney, from $3,000 to $10,000 of notary fees.
Got it. Now, from the moment that I see the house that I want, I say, yes, I want that house. I contact you, I contact the real estate agent, put in my offer, and it's accepted. From that moment to the moment where it's all done, how much time are we talking about?
Typically would be some 2 months. Yeah, something like that. Maybe 3 months. Normally, when an offer is filed and accepted, there is a due diligence period, so the buyer may have the property inspected, and that takes 7-10 days. And then so the list of things that need to be done, if any, are given to the seller. If the seller accepts and says, fine, I'll do that, then typically goes to 15 days, 20 days, and from there is when you actually tell the attorney, really do the paperwork and start the process, because now we are in agreement on the house, and that would take some 45 days, something like that. So all in all, you can tell from 2 to 3 months at the latest when you actually sign the transfer deed.
If I do have questions about the structure of the house or the foundations, and I really do want to get an engineer to come and really check it closely, what percentage am I putting down to start the process and do that due diligence?
Commonly, to make the offer, the buyers will, the sellers will require some $10,000-$15,000 to be sent into escrow. And that will typically start the due diligence period, at which time then you will be conducting all these inspections. And when the inspections are done and cleared and everybody's fine, saying now we got a deal, then typically, depending again on the price of the house, the buyer needs to deposit between 10 and 20% of the value of the property into escrow again. And then when the closing is ready, then the buyer deposits the balance in escrow, and that's when the transaction happens.
If they did find a problem, would they get all the money back?
Yes, typically yes. I mean, you have to be careful and write it like that, no? But
you got to have a good lawyer to really check that.
You need to do that. But yeah, typically that would be the situation.
Let me ask you this. What would you say are the biggest few mistakes that people make when they just say, okay, I want to go live in Cabo San Lucas or Cancun? Where do they get themselves into trouble?
Well, basically, I would say that it's very, very important that if they're going to make any major thing like buying a home or investing in a business or something like that, really go to an attorney. I mean, otherwise, man, who knows what you're getting into, no? If you're going to move in because you're going to have a business and you're partnering with X and Y, you have to have something in place. I mean, first of all. Second, if you have a U.S. car, don't let a Mexican drive it because it's against the law. It's been considered as smuggling, like you were bringing foreign cars for the Mexican market. It's smuggled and you don't get it back. So that's important.
What about in terms of crime, safety?
Well, I would say that at least in the area of Cabo San Lucas is very, very safe. We don't have any safety issues here. So just follow common sense. No? Don't, if you're going to be handling with the wrong people and getting really drunk and that, well, it's going to create problems. But I mean, not any harder problems that anywhere else. No? I mean, drugs are illegal, so at all times you are in danger for having drugs or selling drugs. Cabo is very safe. I don't think that there is anything specific to advise other than whatever you would be doing at home. I mean, don't.
It definitely feels very safe here.
Yeah, it is.
Now, if someone's been watching this and they really like what you've got to say, they think, okay, I want to hire you. How does someone get in touch with you and get your services for real estate or residence?
Absolutely. Our law firm focuses mostly on advising purchasers and sellers of real estate here in Cabo and all the Baja Sur state. And we help him on the immigration issues to those buyers that have purchased and want to live a substantial amount of time here. So yeah, absolutely. My webpage is www.sciencelegal.com, and my phone number, I have a US line, which is very convenient, is 602-464-4634, and my email address is msaenz@saenzmexico.com. So I can be reached very well. My name is Mauricio Sáenz. I'll be happy to be of assistance to whoever your audience is.
So anything related to they want to buy a property here, sell property here, residence, anything, they can reach out to you directly.
Yes, that is right. That is right.
All right, guys, we'll highly recommend it. Give him a call, send him an email if you need any help. Mauricio, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
And guys, we'll see you in the next episode. Speak soon.